Elden Ring marks FromSoftware's first attempt at a truly open-world game, and while its tutorial is more comprehensive than those of previous FromSoft games, there is still a lot of important info that gets left unsaid. It can take them more than an hour for them to tell you how to level up for the Two Fingers' sake. That's why we're here to tell you these 15 things that Elden Ring doesn't tell you. If you ever open one of Elden Ring's inventory menus and get completely overwhelmed, you can press the Help button as marked on the bottom of the screen to bring up status definitions for anything on your current menu. You can bring this up in your inventory page to learn about a weapon, or to help you figure out which stats you might want to level up first. When you meet Melina, she will give you the spectral steed Torrent. While Torrent will help you with traversal and combat whenever you need, he also allows you to use these spirit springs to jump high into the air. What they don't tell you about these though, is that you can use them to safely leap down into a chasm without taking any fall damage. Occasionally, there will be encounters that occur only when you fast travel to a certain location. For instance, once you've spoken to Melina for the first time, if you fast travel to the Church of Ella, you'll be greeted by Rune the Witch, who will offer you the Spirit Calling Bell. Similarly, after you've entered Stormvale Castle, if you fast travel to the War Master's shack in Stormhill at night, you'll be confronted by a very powerful invader. These options may not always be available to you though. If, for whatever reason, Rune won't appear for you, you could purchase the Spirit Calling Bell from the Twin Maiden Husks in the Round Table Hold instead. Certain enemies carry large horns that they will use to call for backup if they spot you, bringing any other enemies rushing over to fight. This can be overwhelming pretty quickly if the horn bearers aren't taken out first, so you may choose to prioritize them or play more stealthily until they are defeated. Stealth is an important part of this game, as you can crouch down in tall grass to become less visible. But something you may not know is that if you get into a fight and want to hide, you can re-enter stealth if you manage to get some distance and break line of sight between you and your enemy. This won't be possible in every encounter, but it's worth giving a shot if fully running away isn't an option. Speaking of running away, you can extend this strategy to boss fights in the overworld. If you move too far away from an overworld boss's battleground, they will warp back to where they should be, which disengages you from the fight. However, this doesn't regenerate their health. Now, you can take your time to get your bearings, heal up, change equipment, or just not lose your runes and go fight somebody else. If you only follow the guidance of grace, you will very quickly find yourself face to face with this guy, Margit the Fell Omen. He's your first required boss, but in our experience, his difficulty is tuned for a tarnished fighter who has spent a number of hours killing lesser bosses, leveling up, and finding new gear in the open world first. Don't let us stop you if you want the challenge, but you may feel like coming back a bit later and a bit stronger. Defeating groups of enemies in the open world can restore your flasks. The more difficult or numerous the foes, the more charges you'll earn back. This can happen in fortified enemy encampments or with groups of wild animals, and is key to exploring more of the lands between without needing to rest at a site of grace every 5 minutes. However, it's important to remember that this won't happen for enemies inside dungeons, so don't get so used to it that it becomes a crutch. Enemies like skeletons are referred to as those that live in death, and can often resurrect themselves fully unless you kill them with holy magic. However, if you defeat them using a normal weapon or other incantations, they'll start to glow white on the ground as they come back to life. Make sure to hit them one more time during this animation to finish them for good, or they'll regenerate back to full health. While inside the smaller mini-dungeons, you won't be able to fast travel out if you find yourself in a bind. However, some larger dungeons and the main legacy dungeons don't operate by these rules, allowing you to hop between checkpoints when you're not in combat. If you took a one-way drop off a rooftop into a dangerous area with no flasks left, you may want to consider fast travelling back if you're worried about losing your precious runes. Dungeon exploration in Elden Ring is more focused on platforming than previous Soulsborne games, since you'll be able to freely jump at will. This means there is much more room to explore or deviate from the main path, as there is no out of bounds. You can jump to rooftops, down buildings, and across gaps to find new areas, secrets, and alternate paths. Fall damage is greatly reduced in Elden Ring compared to previous titles as well, so feel free to be a little bit more adventurous. Some inventory slots, such as Talisman or spell slots, can be improved to allow you to equip more than what you start with. Certain merchants may sell you these upgrades, or you might be able to loot them from bosses that you defeat as well. Unlike previous entries, however, increasing your stats will not increase your spell slots. Elden Ring features certain types of teleporters that can send you far from your current location to different regions in the lands between. You won't know where you'll end up until you appear on the other side. Certain teleporters may even be utilized as traps. If you get caught by one of these, you won't be able to fast travel or respawn at a site of grace until you find a new one. Certain gateways, treasures, and even optional bosses may be locked behind force field-like barriers, with statues of fanged imps nearby. If you find a Stonesword key, you can unlock these barriers by inserting them into the imp statues, but doing so will use up that key, so you'll have to think hard about when and where you want to use them. Once you kill a demigod and collect its great rune, it actually won't be of any use to you until you power it up. For example, with Godrick's great rune, which you get after clearing Stormvale Castle, you must first head to the Limgrave Tower, located across the bridge east of Stormvale Castle. Once you reclaim the power of the rune at the top of the tower, you'll be able to equip it at a site of grace, and then use a rune arc to draw upon its full power until the next time you die. Also, rune arcs seem to reliably drop from rats, so watch out for them if you want to stack up some rune arcs later in the game. Hopefully these tips help get you started on your adventure in Elden Ring, but there are certainly many more secrets to discover in the lands between. If you're just getting started, why not check out our recommendations for things to do first? Or you can find our full guide, along with everything else Elden Ring, over on IGN.com.